listening to BSI, the podcast with Benny Philhauer, and Iko Para. Enjoy!
Goals are useless and irrelevant to me.
I mean, you guys didn't call me out for not picking my boy Seth. It just kind of depends on
new sponsor for BSI the podcast. Yeah. I'll reach out to him
after I just called them bang out.
Welcome to BSI the podcast. We are on episode 18-ish or something.
Who knows?
Ike is keeping track, I think. But we are bringing Matt Besler, captain, good old wholesome country boy, Kansas City, or so he'd like us to believe. But
allegedly,
I'm sure Ike will try and get some of the truth out of him. But we're excited to have him on the show. A lot of our fans are still from Kansas City, so I'm sure they'll be pleased that we're bringing him on. What else, guys? Before we get
Mr. Kansas City, excited to have him. He I mentioned before, which is kind of funny. He's had such a great career, but it's only been with it's been with Kansas City, so it kind of feels like he hasn't done much. But he's played in World Cups, he's won MLS Cups, he's won U.S. Open Cups. He's had an amazing career, so I'm excited to have him.
Yeah, we got a big time guy on, but not as big time as being a part of the Black Players Coalition. So, that was exciting news, for our league and for our Black players in this league. What we're starting and the initiatives that we want to accomplish. So that was one of the projects that I had mentioned on previous episodes, and still looking into, a podcast with educators, which I think is coming around the corner. So,
I think a lot of people are excited to see kind of what you guys can create out of that. So
we got great momentum, and
I think it's extremely excited. And I don't even think I've talked to you about this yet. I mean, we kind of knew a little bit before it came into existence that you guys were doing that, but to see it take off on Twitter and Instagram, and the number of people that are behind it and the support that you guys have gotten, I think it's something that's bigger than soccer and sports, and hopefully you guys can make a big difference, and we can kind of follow in those footsteps as well. But congratulations on that, and I'm looking forward to the changes that will come.
It's just the start, but we're gonna get it going. So with that said, we'll transition to Matt Besler.
All right, without any further ado, welcome Matthew Besler to the show.
Finally, I was excited to finally get the call. Thank you.
Well, you didn't make a very good introduction for yourself on the Benny Philhauer show, so I hope this time Sal's real name. So for those OG listeners, out
yeah,
there.
The OGs.
I can I clear that up real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to formally apologize for that appearance on that show.
For yourself?
So the real story, the real story was Benny and Sal started, the Benny and Sal show, and for like 2 straight months, it's all Benny talked about. He's like, "Oh, this is the show. Like, you guys got to come on. Like, it's gonna be
that
great."
and fantasy football, right?
Yeah. So Benny's like, "Oh, will you and Zeus come on?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come on." And my plan was just to like sabotage the entire show and just to make it terrible. But I didn't tell any of you guys that. And the real problem was I didn't tell Zeusy that. And we were going on as co-guests. And so I completely threw off Zeus, and I don't know. I feel bad about that.
Yeah, it didn't give off that vibe.
Yeah, I know.
You dragged him down with you. And he hates it too. Every time I clown on him for ruining the show, he's like, "Don't throw me in there."
So anyways, I'm sorry, Sam and Sal.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good times.
You should apologize to our listeners, because they're the ones that had to endure that. So.
Sal, don't worry. Ike will get our payback today.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Bees. You know the drill, dude. We're doing some quick hitters to start. Then we'll ask you some questions about your career, and at the end, I'll feed you to the wolves. Ike will ask you 5 questions. You can plead the 5th 1 out of 5. If you decide to not plead any, then you get to ask one of us any question that you desire. Cool?
Got it, guys. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. First question's a real easy one. You're starting a franchise, and for all intents and purposes, everybody's at their peak. So yourself and anybody else. So you're starting a franchise. You are the first player on the team, and you can pick whoever's going to play out of these players. And I picked only guys that play in the back line and or goalkeeper. So the options that you have are Ike Opara, Aurelian Collin, Graham Zusi, Seth Sinovic, Jimmy Nielsen, or Tim Melia. Who's your other cornerstone next to yourself?
Wow. You said that was an easy one?
Yeah, that's an easy, quick
These are,
hitter.
these are quick hitters, layups.
Man. Wow. Well, I mean, first off the top of my head, Zusi stands out, but I don't think I'd pick Zusi to be on my back line. I think Zusi in his prime was a really good midfielder. I think all around Zusi is one of the best just straight soccer players that I've played with. You can stick him anywhere on the field and he's effective. So I would rate him, probably at the top of out of all those players in his prime, but I don't think I'd pick him because I wouldn't want him on my back line.
Okay.
For me, it's between Ike or Tim Melia.
Okay.
Man, I'm gonna
who
have
you
to go
choose
Tim
here?
doesn't listen. Tim doesn't
Yeah.
listen to the show, so
Who you choose here might make your plead the fifths easier, just so we're clear.
Nah,
Well, I don't
ain't
care
none
about
of
that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pick Tim. I'm gonna pick Tim because
Ayo.
for one, so Ike, I thought we probably had like 2 or 3. We definitely had 2 good years together. You could maybe stretch that to 3, but I think the last you've been at Minnesota for 2 years, right? Oh no, it's just 1.
Yeah.
So I guess
Well,
your
one-
last
one
year
and
in
a half.
Kansas City and then Minnesota. Like, I feel like you got even better when you went to Minnesota. So I feel like you're like almost just hitting your prime. So I feel like I'm missing that a little bit. And I also just think, I don't know, goalie is a extremely important position, and I think Tim is one of the best goalies in the league.
All right. Well said. Good answer.
Well said.
All right. We're going to get easier from here, Bees, I
A
promise.
giant F you to Ike Opara. I love it.
Listen,
All right.
I don't care about the goalies. Listen, you put the thing in the corner, the goalie ain't saving it anyway, so goalies are useless and irrelevant to me.
You guys didn't call me out for not picking my boy Seth, huh?
No, I thought maybe you were going to go with Seth just because you guys have had the longest career together, I guess, playing side by side. But
That's a
Yeah,
pretty tough question,
I would say though, if you answer honestly though, in my opinion, as like a soccer brain, you got to pick either another center back or a goalie because those are more like linchpin positions than outside backs. You can kind of find other guys to find those play those other positions, and it's more about who you're most comfortable with. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents. Let's move on. All right, you've been at Sporting Kansas City your whole career. What's been the closest team that you almost joined?
Wait, outside the league or
And it doesn't matter.
okay.
Outside of Sporting. So it could be someone within the league. I know you would have been a free agent if you hadn't just re-signed with Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was ever almost a trade. Obviously, after the World Cup, you had some interest. So what's the closest team you feel like you almost signed with?
There's a couple, I think. I don't know how quick you want me to be on this answer, but
Take
I
your
would
time,
say
bro.
the closest was probably Fulham. Right after the World Cup.
Yep.
They were playing in the championship at the time, and then they got promoted a couple years after that. Now they're back down in the championship. But yeah, that was like probably the one that I had most control over, and that I was seriously considering at the time. I know that there's probably been a couple other ones, but I don't. Who knows what goes on behind closed doors with Peter.
Right.
Being general manager. I'm sure he gets calls all the time. There was a time in, I believe it was 2015 or maybe 16, where he called me into his office and he basically said, "Hey, I think it was during a time that I was benched actually, so I wasn't playing that well and I wasn't like getting a lot of minutes." And he kind of just like threw it out there, like, "Hey, I know this is a tough situation for you. Like, you're the captain and you've been here forever. You know, there's definitely teams that are interested in you. I want to just let you know that. And in years past, like I've always let people know that that are in your situation. And some guys, you know, want to get out of Kansas City or want to try something new. If you're one of those guys, just let me know. And I basically said like, no, I'm good. I want to fight for my spot back, and I'm going to prove to, you know, the guys, and I'm going to prove to you that I should be playing, and blah blah blah. And so that was literally the only conversation that we had. He wouldn't tell me the team, but then obviously I left the meeting and got on the phone and started calling around, and that team ended up being Orlando. They were just coming into the league, and so, you know, I think they wanted like a proven center back, consistent center back type of guy. So I think they were trying to trade for me.
Nice. Orlando was about to make a good decision.
Yeah.
They don't make many of those though, but no hit on Dom on that one, but that was expensive too.
Yeah,
but
they traded Dom instead, so I think Dom's happy about that.
They got more money or Sporting got more money for Dom than they could have for you probably.
Totally agree.
All right, last question to quick hitters. And we talked about how to word this one, so I'm going to word it I think the way Ike wanted it to. I think it makes more sense. So rank these championships for the city of Kansas City in order. So 1 through 3. Sporting Kansas City MLS Cup 2013, Royals 2015, Chiefs 2019.
Man, it's been a fun. What's that year? 8 years? Is that what it's been?
7 for us.
A good era.
Yeah, man, it's been pretty fun to be in the city and be a sports fan. They're all different. Like this is a tough question. They're all different in terms of, you know, like popularity. The Chiefs are the most popular team here in Kansas City by far. So, you know, it would be hard to not rank them number one, but I want to give Sporting some credit here because winning is contagious. Winning is a habit. I think we all know that just as athletes, but I also think it plays a pretty big role like in the community that you're in. And, you know, I think Kansas City has always been a really good sports town, and I've tried to like explain that to people. But until you get like a consistent winner, it's really hard to see that. And we were the first franchise to consistently win and bring a championship to Kansas City. And I mean, I feel like people got a taste of that, and they started looking around like, wow, this is really cool. You know, this is, you know, what it's like, and there's parades and, you know, sold out stadiums and all that stuff. So I feel like once we won that championship, the landscape of sports in Kansas City completely changed. And, you know, whether we played a role in the Royals and Chiefs winning, I'm sure we didn't. But in terms of like the fans and like the city as a whole, we were definitely the ones to start that winning culture. And now, like as a city, we have that right now, and it's pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I remember both the Royals and the Chiefs when I got there in 2013, beginning of 13, when you guys already were pretty good. 11 and 12, you guys were good. And then you won Open Cup. And then 13, we won. And Royals were really good in 14, right? Wasn't that the year that they lost in the World Series?
Yeah, they lost in Game 7 the year before.
That's right. So they started becoming really good in 14, won in 15. The Chiefs started getting, you know, pretty good as well. I don't remember which year, but they, you know,
Basically
started
when they drafted Mahomes.
No, it was Alex Smith
before
13.
Mahomes.
13,
I mean, they were good with
Smith.
Alex
No,
Smith.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, it definitely has been like,
yeah, for sure.
Steady,
Those two teams
even more
got
than steady,
good
like,
because Sporting was good for sure.
but in terms of like being a Kansas Citian, and like it's been like a meteoric rise in terms of just winning, right? Not necessarily winning a championship, but like going from being bad to being good. And so
definitely the city of Kansas City has grown into championship mentality, that's for sure.
And
the other thing that was different too was the Chiefs. So the Chiefs kind of went on their playoff run when we were down in Arizona for preseason this year. So that's like a big difference. When the Royals won the World Series, it was in October, and we were in Kansas City, so we were able to experience that. And just like the way that the baseball playoffs are played out, I think it's really cool because there's so many games and there's so many storylines. that you can kind of follow. Like there's almost a game every night. And so I don't know. I feel like it captured the city a lot more because the playoffs, lasted longer. There was a lot more games. NFL, I mean, there was only 3 games for the Chiefs to win. And then for us personally, we were down in Arizona, so we couldn't really like be around Kansas City to like experience the build up and like the parades and all that stuff.
Here's a funny little link between the Chiefs championship in 2019 and ours in 2013. In every single game in the playoffs, we were down and they were down. Every single game, or every single series for us, right? Series. So we were down to New England, down to Houston, and down to Salt Lake, and they were down to, who was it, Tennessee? No, Tennessee was in the championship.
All right, football's irrelevant now, but you never know. Kansas City is a great sports town when you fly into the airport. So
they're building the new terminal, like for the last 5 years. So
got a long ways to go, bro. A long way to go.
All right, those are the slow hitters, as we now call them, and we can get into the interview. We're just gonna start talking early days, bro. I mean, you got drafted in 2009, right, with Sporting, and it wasn't Sporting Kansas City yet, right?
Correct. It was the Kansas City Wizards.
So how was that like before you guys moved to the new stadium and new ownership and new name and all that stuff? How was it playing at the, coming in? I know it's your hometown team, but what was like, how different was it? Because none of us played there. So I was always curious about that.
What did you like expect, your role to be on the team? Because you were, a younger guy around like a Davey, a Jack Jewsbury, a Jimmy Conrad. Like, did they kind of take you under their wing at the start?
So, yeah, I mean, when I first got drafted, I was really excited to be coming back home to Kansas City. But to be honest, I didn't really know much about the organization anymore at all because, I followed the Wizards when I was younger, but I kind of lost touch a little bit as far as like me being a fan once I started like getting older in high school and definitely in college, just because, you go away from home and that was probably like one of the times that they struggled the most. So I didn't really know much about like, where their practice facility was and, who the players were and the coach. So it was familiar being back in Kansas City, but the team and the organization was completely new. It was a new experience for me. I came in with the attitude of just basically wanting to make the team. I did not expect to come in and start. I didn't even really have like goals or aspirations to be like, hey, I want to come in, I want to play in MLS for like 3 years, and then I want to jump to Europe. I feel like a lot of players these days now have more of like a mapped out plan, but for me, it was almost just like survival. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it a career or not, but I was basically just taking like one day at a time and just trying to make it last as long as possible. So that's pretty much what my mindset was that first year, and it was kind of a whirlwind of a year. There's just so much going on, and I ended up playing left back for I believe it was like 28 games, which
in your rookie year.
Yeah, my rookie year.
Jeez,
and
didn't know that.
Yeah, I feel like so my very first appearance was the first game of the season. It was away at Colorado, and I got subbed on in like the 75th minute as a left winger. And I'm pretty sure I got drafted as a center back, but who knows at that point.
You never asked Peter?
So Peter wasn't the coach. It was Kurt.
No, but
Analfo.
Peter was the GM, wasn't he?
Peter was the GM, yeah. So, I mean, I have brought this up to him, and he's like, yeah, no, you were center back. He's like, I don't know what the coach was doing. Like, that's why we fired him.
Kill the game out,
Yeah.
Throw center back at winger.
So anyways, like I go on as left winger, and like literally my first touch, there's like a cross, and I like make a run at the back post, and I hit it pretty well, and it hits like the side of the net. So like for a second, I actually thought it was a goal because I saw the net move, and I'm like, oh my God, I just scored on my first touch. No way. But no, I didn't score. We ended up losing. The coach, it was Kurt Analfo at the time. He pulled me aside at the end of the game, and he was like, hey, obviously I don't see you like as a left winger, but I believe in you as a player, and I just wanted to like get your feet wet and get your first appearance out of the way. It's good whether it's 90 minutes or 10 minutes at the end. It's always good to get that first one out of the way. And so, I just wanted to give it to you in the first game. So I appreciate that. I appreciate him saying that. And then, long story short, for the rest of that year, we had like a couple injuries, and we were still kind of figuring out, like I guess our core group of players. We weren't that great of a team yet, so I ended up playing left back for the majority of that year.
Nice. I actually have a question though. Back then, I don't know exactly what you were on in terms of salary, but I know the league was in a different place, and you obviously were a rookie and not a 15-year veteran or however long you've been playing in the league. But I know you and Zeus both came into the league at the same year, correct?
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, I remember hearing stories like this, so I want you to like tell it to me. But I think Zeus was at first, before he moved into your basement, living in like some really scary $100 a month, is that rent places?
Yeah.
Is this correct? I'm trying to remember this properly, but I remember he was living in not the best housing, and then you decided to bring him into your parents' house.
That's correct. So the story is was it 32 or 36? What was the minimum? Do you remember?
I don't know.
What's $3,000 a month? That's
Back
36,
then, it was
right?
probably
$3,000 a month is 36.
It was probably 30. It was probably 30.
I would have thought it was like 12,000, but maybe that's
No,
even
no,
further
it was
back.
That's earlier
2009. It was 36 because I remember it was
You
exactly
can make
$3,000 a month.
you can make 36 work in Kansas City though.
Yeah, you can. We did.
That's
We had to live in
PV's
my
line.
house, but-
You come live in Kansas City, we'll pay you $8 and you'll live like a king. What?
So I was on 36,000 a year before taxes. So I had actually ended up signing one of those like pre-draft contracts that some of the college seniors sign. So like at the combine, they pull aside like some of the college players that they think are going to get drafted, and they like try and sign you then. I don't know why they do it, but I was one of those players. So I had signed a deal with the league. I knew that I was going to be getting paid 36 grand, but I just didn't know who the team I was going to be playing on. So I had a contract before my team even. So I was like, I had a little more security, I guess, going in. But I remember Zeus, he got drafted, same with me. We both played in preseason. We both did pretty well. He did really well. Like he was tearing it up. I think he scored like 5 or 6 goals in preseason, and he was penciled in to start the very first game, and he was going to play, I think, outside mid. And it was like Tuesday or Wednesday, the week before the first game, and Zusi hadn't signed a contract yet with the league or the team. And anyone that knows Zusi, like he's just kind of like going along with the flow. And
Zeus was holding out. He was holding out for a big contract.
And so it was one of the veterans, Jack Jewsbury. He was one of the player reps at the time, and he pulled him aside after practice one day. It was like, "Yo, like you need to sign a contract. Like, you got to go into their office right now and be like, yo, I'm not practicing tomorrow. I'm not playing the game unless we have a contract. Like that'd be crazy. You can't play a game without a contract." So, but that's just like kind of how the league worked. And I mean, long story short, I'm pretty sure Graham signed his contract Friday evening at like 5 or 6 o'clock PM. And the very first game was the next night. And so we played the game. But back to your question about where I was living. So, like I answered the first question, like I didn't really know how long I was going to play for. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be good enough to make it. So, me being from Kansas City, like for me, it was a no-brainer. I was going to live at my parents' house for the time being. Originally, I said like a couple months to kind of like settle in and like see if I can make the team. But that kind of turned into the full year just because it made sense and I was saving all the money and all that stuff. So I lived at my parents to start the season for the first like couple weeks or months, and Graham decided to live at this apartment complex. It was up north of the city, and the club had agreed with this apartment complex to get like some outrageous deal. I'm pretty sure, I'd have to ask Graham, but I'm pretty sure it was $150 a month. No
was
joke.
it worse than the extended stay that the players have to stay in?
It's worse.
Is it?
$150 a month.
$150 a month. So I didn't really like know about this place, and because I was just like my head was spinning, and all these things going on. But finally, like a month or two into the season, I go over to that place because I'm, like hanging out with Graham or something, or like we're going out to dinner. And I go to pick him up at this place, and I walk in, and I just was like, holy shit, no, 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 this can't be happening. There was a TV like in the corner without a stand, and there was two of those like foldable lawn chairs, like sitting in front of the TV, and Graham had
This
had
is
a
in
blow
his
up
apartment?
mattress. Yeah, he had his blow up mattress, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Yo, no, you're not living here. Like I'm not letting this happen." And Graham, he's like, "Oh no, it's fine, man. Like it's fine. I'm
Graham
good."
like would have like pulled a tent out and just slept outside if he could.
He told me later that his mattress was good, like to start the night, and then at like 3 o'clock it would lose air, and so by 3 o'clock in the morning it would just his back and butt would be like on the floor. So anyways, long story short, I convinced him. I was like, "Yo, you can't live like this. Like this is dumb. It's up north. Like no one else is kind of there, or whatever." And so I convinced him to come and live at my parents' house. Um, so yeah, Graham moved in like, I don't know, May or June of that season, and then we lived at my parents' house for the rest of that year.
Nice.
Yeah.
The
And
little
then one
things.
other just kind of weird thing about that whole like setup. So my parents have a finished basement, and in the basement there's like a bedroom and kind of like an apartment, like a kitchen. And so when I moved back, I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm going to move back, and I'm kind of going to live on my own kind of down there." So I had like moved all my stuff into that basement. And then when Graham moved in, like it would have made more sense for Graham to take that, like cuz he's kind of the guest. But since I had
Yeah.
already moved my stuff, Graham took my old room, which was upstairs, like with my younger brother. So they were living up there, and I had like my own apartment kind of downstairs. It's all good though. It worked out.
Love it. He's part of the family though.
Yeah.
The things of MLS, even the stories. I remember you telling me one of the games, like the people will just never know. Like, so when you're on the field and you're just talking, and fans are probably like, oh, they're probably strategizing and whatnot, and you're usually just talking bullshit half the time. So you told me a story about when you were on the bench for a game, and then someone dared you to chug a Gatorade or something, and
Yeah.
then you had to sub in like 2 minutes later impromptu.
Yeah. That was up in Seattle. That was my rookie year actually. Um, I wasn't starting at that time, and me and Graham were sitting on the bench, and we'd play this game like we were basically just saying like, "You won't do that," and like we were on the airplane. It's like, you won't stand up right now and yell penis as loud as you can at the airport. So anyways, we were on the bus, and I forget who it was. I don't think it was Graham, but it was someone. It was maybe Kurt Morsink. We had this like fruit punch big Gatorade thing. And he's like, "You won't chug that right now." And I was like, "Yes, I will. Watch me." And I just grabbed it and chugged the whole thing in like 2 seconds, set it down, and I felt so amazing. Like I was this rookie. I was showing these older guys up. And literally 2 minutes later, Jimmy Conrad pulls up with a hamstring injury. And Peter like looks down at the bench. He's like, "Bees, you got to get in." So I just run onto the field, like no warm up. And yeah, I mean, we're up in Seattle, like we're getting peppered, like balls over the top, like just crazy amount of sprints. I had the worst side ache for the first half, like ever. I was terrible for the first half, but then halftime
You were
hit,
hydrated,
and oh man, I like relaxed a little bit. The second half, I played much better, but it was brutal.
The things that people don't know.
No,
I think it's more stressful being on a bench to start a game than it is like actually playing. Because like leading up to a game, you play and you're like, once the game starts, you're good, But when you're on the bench, you got to like constantly stay engaged and just know that your numbers could be called at any point.
Nah, I
More
fully
nerve-wracking,
disagree
I
with
feel.
that comment.
I don't
You know
fully agree
why?
with that comment.
You know
either.
why? Because I don't know. Actually, I don't know about you, Benny, but like as a defender, it's a little bit different because like you kind of don't really get subbed in. But as an attacker, I feel like when you know you're gonna go in at any point, I don't know.
I
feel like
think
it's a little bit more nerve wracking.
I think if I'm starting, then like I'll have my rituals, right? The day before the game, what I eat, day of the game. When I'm on the bench, I like don't care about anything. Like I just like go to the game and like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Because you're not going to eat 4 hours before the game and then you only go in 6 hours after you ate or 5.5 hours. You're starving, right? So like it doesn't matter. Your whole process is like messed up. And so I just kind of thought the best way was just like do whatever you want. Don't worry about the game. You don't get the nervous shits and stuff like that.
But what about while the game is going on?
The only annoying thing about being on the bench,
I agree.
The only thing that's annoying about being on the bench is the second half warming up the whole damn game. That is the most annoying thing ever.
Or the ones that would have you get up in like the 30th minute to go for like a light jog and stuff. Like, what the hell is this?
That is the thing that you cringe at, like thinking about. You hope like you go in early second half or halftime or something, because if you
just want to be like, leave me alone, let me watch the game.
Or the post game sprints when you're like,
the post game sprints
at like 11 p.m.
Especially when your team like loses or something. Yeah, you're just like out there.
Mad at you.
Yeah, exactly.
The warm-ups never get you anything either. You never get warmed up with the warm-ups either, by the way. All right.
I do remember, speaking of Benny eating pregame meals like 4 hours before the game. Do you remember in preseason in Tucson where it was set up as a preseason game where like the first group was going to play like the first 60 minutes and then the second group was going to come later and play 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But for some reason we all ate at the same time. So Benny was like smart and he was saying, "Oh, like why would I eat, 4 hours before the game with you guys when I'm not going to play for an hour after? Like I should wait and eat." Which was smart. It's the way kind of Benny is and thinks. But the problem with Benny's decision is we all show up to the locker room and Benny shows up an hour later with a Chick-fil-A bag.
I don't remember this.
Yes, you brought Chick-fil-A.
I believe it. I just never remember these things.
I believe it happened. I don't remember it, but he's the same guy that had vanilla. What was it?
Chocolate.
Yeah, but what's it called? Oh, crepe. A crepe for breakfast the day of the Red Bull
vanilla
game.
Ice cream and chocolate crepe or whatever.
Yes. And then you did also a milkshake, the pregame meal when you went to Potbelly's. So I 100% believe that happened in preseason.
The Potbelly's one
where he always gets a chocolate chip cookie, right? Where he always
gets a chocolate chip cookie. The sugar cookie or whatever.
Well, I used to. Now I don't. Man.
But yeah, but that's because Bees. I mean, I don't remember this, but I fully believe it. But I'll give you the reason behind it as well. There's the team meal at X hours, right? 4 hours before the game, and then you don't get offered anything else. So what other option do you have? Do you want me to go to Olive Garden and bring it back, or like what? I have no other option, so I got to go
preseason. Something. Okay, preseason's fine, but the regular season, why are you doing vanilla ice cream crepes?
Maybe I was on the bench that game, Mike. I might have been
on the bench that game.
I started.
Yes.
I remember that was in New Jersey, right? That was in Hoboken.
Yeah.
So we were playing Red Bulls.
How about the old when you have a game like at noon and you have to eat 4 hours before, but they'll still bring out like pasta and marinara with like chicken at like 8 in the morning. You're
worst.
like, do you guys expect me to eat this?
Well, speaking of Red Bull, now that we're kind of on the topic, so when we talked about this Tyler Adams Open Cup, when the whole Red Bull slapped our hands, Bees was right next to me. And he texted me when he heard about it, saying that 100% happened. So I want
don't
Bees
think
to
it did. We never did that as a team. I think it was a way to trick your mind to get pumped up because I really don't.
You guys tried to
that.
bully us, bro.
Yeah.
Sal, wait, because did you start that game or did you come
Sal
on?
didn't start.
Yeah,
No,
you came
I
on.
came
So you weren't in the handshake line. So you.
No, I wasn't. But I don't remember our team ever like.
Should I text Sasha right
like
now?
that.
I can text Sasha.
Yeah, text Sasha.
I'll text Sasha. We'll
I
see
want
if
to
he
go on
responds.
record with confirming that it was 100% like pre-planned. It was just too obvious that it was planned for all of us to notice it. And I looked at Ike immediately, and I don't remember exactly what I said. I'm like, Ike, are these guys serious right now?
Yeah,
like, let's
literally
go.
what you said. I said, I don't even know. I do remember saying, I was like, yeah, what the fuck was that? Like, what just happened? All of them. Every last one of them.
The thing that pushed it over the top was like, okay, like a couple guys like doing the mean mug and like hitting your hand, like maybe a couple of the like foreign like center backs like trying to be tough or whatever. But the entire team and Connor Lade. When Connor Lade went through, like the nicest guy ever, and I was like, oh hey, what's up, Connor? He just like hit my hand as hard as he could and just gave me the mean mug. I was like, okay, something's up.
I'm trying to think. I don't even know if Connor started that game, so that's already where I'm like, your memory is.
No, I'm pretty sure
off.
he started.
I'm gonna look this up because I don't know if he started that game. We'll see.
It definitely happened. It
He
definitely
might have been
happened.
coming back from an ACL still. Let me see.
Well, we'll figure that out. Let's get back to Sporting Kansas City. So new ownership comes in 2000. I mean, I know that the stadium was finally built in 2011. I don't know what 2010 new ownership. I can't remember.
No,
what
new
year it
ownership was actually 06.
06.
Yeah, 06.
I didn't know that.
They did the rebranding though. They did the rebranding in 2011.
Okay,
So I played 2 years in 2009, 2010 with the Wizards, and then we changed to Sporting.
And did a lot of stuff change like during the period of the rebrand, or was it already like kind of evolving as you got there with the stadium? Like how was that like transition? Because I mean, I've only, known it as Sporting Kansas City, and with the ridiculous facilities now, obviously Pinnacle as well, or now I think they changed the name, but with the stadium and everything is really, really nice. So I'm wondering like, how was that process for you?
Real quick, Connor Lade was an unused substitute, so already your story is
Okay,
your
well,
story.
It was
is,
Alex Moyle or
yeah, you
All
got
right,
confused. All right. But go on to Benny's question.
So it's easy to say now. Like the period of the Wizards it felt amateur, and I don't want to like show disrespect to that time because what we have now. The best thing about the time with the Wizards was the group that we had. Like we had Jack Jewsbury, Jimmy Conrad, Kevin Hartman, Davey Arno. I mean that's like those are some really good guys, some really good veterans, guys just that set a really good example. So I don't think if that group wasn't there, I wouldn't be the player that I am. Like Zeusy, Roger. I mean the next kind of core group that went through. So they kind of helped us, move along a lot quicker than we probably would have if they weren't there. But as soon as they changed the name to Sporting Kansas City, they changed the colors. Immediately, you felt a shift in just the organization and the focus, the dedication to winning. And I mean, I don't know why that is. They literally just changed the name, but that's kind of what started it. And then we actually didn't open our new stadium until halfway through that year. So we had like 4 or 5 months of the rebrand. Everything just kept building and building towards this new stadium. And then once the new stadium opened halfway through the year, it just exploded and just took off.
Yeah. My first game in MLS actually was against you guys. I don't know if you remember that, but we played you guys at New England. And one of the few happy memories I have of New England, we beat you guys 3-2, but that was during your long road trip before you guys opened your stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, we started that season with 10 games on the road.
That was like a rough patch, wasn't it?
Yeah, we won our first game on the road, and then I think we tied our second, then lost, and then tied. So through 4 games, we had 5 points, and we were like, okay, this is pretty good. And then we lost 6 straight. So out of 10 games, we had 4 points, and we were, obviously we were in dead last, and it wasn't great. And then we opened up the stadium, and I think it was like 13 or 14 games unbeaten to start the stadium off, and we actually ended up going all the way up to first place. We finished in first place that year.
Yep, remember that. Should we get into the championships? I know, Ike, you got some questions, maybe not so much about the championships.
Well, yeah. Well, we're going to talk about how we celebrated those championships in a second here, but I'm just curious, what do you think, when that core group of guys is, kind of all officially gone, yourself, Roger, Zeus, obviously Peter, I'm assuming, has a plan. He plans in advance, as we all know, but I'm very curious to see what new Sporting will look like in a few years when you guys, I would imagine, are all done playing.
We've always had those thoughts, right? We've had those conversations in the locker room.
Right. And last year, obviously, there was a lot of things that happened. Injuries,
right.
I mean, lots of things, right? So I don't necessarily think that was the start of anything. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see these handful of years. How does it feel, being on that side of it, Bees, knowing that you're realistically, you're closer to end than the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it feels weird. It's a little scary. to not really know what's going to happen, and to know that the end is, a lot closer than it was at the beginning. I mean, we still have a lot to prove though, especially after what happened last year. So I don't know, like, not really much has changed. I mean, Peter's going to try and win. And if he thinks that you're a guy that can help the team win, then, he's going to give you chances. If he doesn't, then he's probably going to try and move on from you. I mean, I don't think, it, it doesn't really matter who you are, whether it's me or, I mean, even Benny, Rogers, like, he's not going to just like hold on to us to hold on to us. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious, just like you. I don't. There's not really like an answer to what sporting's going to look like. I think Peter's done a ridiculous job of piecing together like the core group and keeping the culture the same and the core the same, adding like bits and pieces like throughout the years. The run of the 8 or 9 years, usually it's not that long. Usually in professional sports, it's like 3 or 4 years. So a lot of credit has to be given to him for doing that.
Yeah. Like you guys are the dying breed. It was like Chance was there, Seth was there, Benny, myself. Like, it's you guys are the last
of the Mohicans.
Dude,
I wasn't gonna. That wasn't gonna be. What
it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but
the thing that's like really it will be interesting for me to see is the league was built in a different way 10 plus years ago, right? And so a lot of the players that became the backbone of Sporting Kansas City were guys that Peter found through the draft or found through like myself or Ike, that found through other teams that maybe he saw something in that, didn't work so well in other clubs. And he kind of built it that way. I mean, you, Chance, Zeus, Roger, Seth, he traded like early on, like basically his rookie year, CJ, and so
Dom.
Yeah. So, I mean, so many guys that kind of came from, drafting or, hadn't like fully reached their potential. And now the league is kind of going in a different direction. And if you see like the way the team is composed of right now, you still have like yourself, Zeus, Roger, those guys, as really the backbone, with a couple other pieces that he found, the Johnny Russells. I know Felipe is injured, but Felipe, Tim, and so Ilie. But it's a different system, like completely, of how you build a team nowadays in the league. And that'll be interesting for me to see how Peter kind of adapts to that, because he's always been able to so well. And so it's really, I'm curious to see like what the team looks like in 5-10 years from now. Is it going to be a lot of foreigners? Is he somehow going to be able to find like, a core group of Americans that are kind of like there for long periods of time? And so it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to be tough to kind of keep the same, in
10 years he's going to owe all the Americans restitution, because we all did a hell of a job building the culture as well. Like, as much as he made that a staple, we had to buy in, and our personalities all made it special there. I think welcoming other guys in, and obviously they did their homework on the guys, but I think we also are underestimating what we did as people for the organization too.
Bees, post your playing days, what interests you? What would be a perfect scenario for you?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I love the game. I love competing and just being in that environment. So I can already tell that it's going to be hard for me to get away from that. The thing that scares me is, like, a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, do you want to be a coach?" And again, I love the coaching part of the game. I love, just being around it and figuring out ways to improve and get better. But the whole travel part of the coach is a big negative to me, at least right now, because the traveling, I have a young family. That's probably one of the hardest things about playing right now and the biggest challenges. So I think when I get done playing, that's going to be one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most, of not having to travel and, missing birthdays and weddings and all those things, those events, with your family. But if you jump right in and to be a coach, you basically have the same exact schedule as the player, if not worse. And so that part of it really, kind of scares me, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with that.
What about anything outside of soccer? I was going to actually ask you this maybe later, but since you brought it up, what about anything outside of soccer? I know you've done some kind of funny commercials I've seen with the I forget what it's called, but the air conditioning.
Yeah. No, I mean those have all been fun. I mean, I enjoy that stuff. I think it'll be funny to kind of look back and see some of the promo ads that we've done over the years. But they're all just different experiences, and just living life and trying to enjoy it. But one thing that I've recently got involved in within the last year or two is a company that we started. It's called States. Um,
That's what, and you're doing it with Seth as well, right?
we are, yeah, we are. So basically, how it started was we have a friend who we grew up playing club soccer with. His name's Daniel Curley. He played college soccer at Colgate, and he went to New York and did the whole like investment banking thing. Afterwards, he went out to San Francisco and after New York, and so he's very passionate about creating his own companies and the business world, and he's like best friends with Seth, and they've always stayed in touch, and they've always talked about just like doing something in soccer, but more like on the business side of things, and
Yeah.
That's how like this whole idea started. It actually was going to start as a kind of with this partnership called the Global Orphanage down in Haiti. We were going to like model some things after the Tom shoes, but we were going to do it with soccer jerseys, and have like a big production, facility down there, and just a lot of good things happening. But long story short, that kind of fell through. But through that process, we met a lot of cool connections, and we ended up creating a soccer lifestyle brand. We named it States because we really wanted to focus on American soccer. We feel like it's the global game, but soccer in this country is growing at a rapid rate, and there's nothing really to represent that as far as a lifestyle brand. And so we just really wanted to focus on soccer. And another cool kind of anecdote, I guess, when we were coming up with this company and the ideas, I kept thinking about all my buddies who can't play soccer anymore. And I kind of talked to them, and they don't really play soccer anymore, but they go and work out. Like they go to the gym, or they run, or they go to like Health House, or the running or rowing and all that stuff. And they all wear Lululemon.
Yeah.
They all wear like the same thing, but they're really soccer players. And I was just thinking to myself, like, these guys, they need something to wear. Like they need something to like represent and feel like they're a soccer player still, even though they're not playing soccer necessarily. Like soccer's still in their blood. It's a big part of who they are. So like they can go out for a jog in their neighborhood, or they can row, or they can go play basketball, but like they can actually wear something that represents soccer. So that was like a big inspiration for what we're trying to create. And yeah, I mean, so far it's been really good. It's been fun. Great learning experience on some things, but we've introduced the product, we've introduced the brand. We've been very patient over the last year or two, just introducing things slowly, and hopefully we have some really exciting announcements and some news coming up in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned.
Bro, I was going to say, I can really relate to what you were saying about the players, because I was sponsored by Nike for a while, then Adidas, and now I'm unemployed, getting no salary, no free clothes anymore. So let me know if you want to sponsor. If you want to sponsor me, States, or the podcast, even better. You could send us some gear, and dude, I'm all for it. I have that soccer in my blood too, so I want to represent.
We'll absolutely
send us that
we'll take care
preseason
of
package.
You guys.
Yeah.
I've heard good things. I saw Seth wearing it all the time, and they looked really comfortable. And it looks great. So send it our way. We'll test it out for you.
The product is really good. It's really high quality. So yeah, I'm
Bees,
excited.
you know where I live. You got my address.
Vinny, I mean, you're still living in those preseason packages.
He does.
I'm just going through them, dude.
2012. Hey, so speaking of the culture that we helped build, that culture also took us to some great times celebrating championships in Vegas that you helped orchestrate. These any memorable stories that you want to share?
Oh man,
I'm just like having things go in my head right here. I don't even know what Bees is thinking. All I can see right now is
Zeus on a rowboat.
Zeus on a boat is one of them, and then I can see a broken Corona bottle. I'm not gonna go any further than there.
I don't even think I remember that one.
No, you don't know. You don't know with a sliced foot, but
oh yeah.
I mean, sure. Like let's get into it. I can
just
do
one
my best
story.
here.
I don't know.
But no, you're right. I mean, the locker rooms that we've always had, especially during those times, during the championship years, it was awesome. It was an awesome locker room to be a part of. I think everyone, played a part in creating that locker room. And I mean, for me, that's like what the cool thing about a locker room is. It's like, it's nobody else's. Like, it's not the coaches. It's not, the fans that's the players' locker room. So you have full control over what the vibe is going to be like. So if you want to create a serious vibe, then you create that. If you want to, play jokes on each other or, be segregated in your little sections, like you can create that. But if you can be all together. And I feel like we did a really good job of just creating a really healthy, competitive, enjoyable locker room to come to work every day. So, yeah, I mean, it's even better when it coincides with a championship at the end of the year and you go to Vegas. But, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I guess one quick story. So since I was the captain, you guys know about the fine system we had. So we had this big fine system throughout the year. And we would pool all the money together. And the deal was, if we won a championship, we would use that money to go on a trip and to celebrate. And most of the times, I guess all the times, we're in Vegas. So anyways, at the end of one of the years, there was a ton of fines. Like, guys were just being late and all this stuff. CJ Sapong funded like half of our fine money. But anyways,
Aurelian was in Mexico City half the year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there was 80 grand. There was $80,000. That was our pool at the end of the year, and I was in charge of that. And so I showed up to this bank that, like, whatever, we kept the money at. And I pull up, I'm like, hey, we're going to Vegas tomorrow. Like, our team, like, I need 80 grand. And they looked at me like, what? No chance you're getting 80 grand out of the bank. Like, we don't keep that much at the bank. And I didn't know that. How am I supposed to know that? Like, it's a bank. You're supposed to have.
You can take out a. Is that true?
They don't like keep very much money.
No, I know, but you can't take out 80 grand.
I don't know. So, anyways, the guy was like, oh. He knew that I was a sporting player, and I told him we were going to Vegas. He's like, oh, I got to do this. So he drove. There was like 5 or 6 different branches like around the city, and he drove around like that afternoon and got like 16 here and like 25 there. And so he shows up back at the bank with 80 grand, hands it to me. For the record, it looks a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like this huge, big, like brown sack of like a jackpot.
Like dodgeball, this briefcase when he opens it up.
But I mean, I don't know. It wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. So I get the 80 grand. We're going to Vegas like the next morning. So I show up just in my duffel bag and I'm carrying $80,000. Nobody knows. I don't want to tell anyone because I'm.
Is
just
that even illegal? Out. You should have given everybody 10 grand, right? Because you can only no, maybe within the states. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, international for sure.
I think it's international only.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's gotta be sweaty palms. Just cuff that thing to your hand.
Yeah. So I travel with it. No issues. Go through security. We get to Vegas and. As you guys know, we got there and we used the money to like pay for everyone's rooms, pay for like
put it all on red
as
soon as you got there.
We gave everyone some gambling /
We didn't give any to Jimmy, did we?
No, we gave money to Jimmy, but he didn't do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
good times. Good time.
That was a good trip. Even the ownership, I think there's maybe somebody there too from the ownership group that had some fun with us too.
For sure.
Good times.
Oh gosh!
All right, what are we moving on to here? I got a few questions left.
I was saying I've got one left before the interrogation. It comes from your good friend, former college teammate Justin Morrow, one of my good friends, about how on his official visit to Notre Dame, you may have showed him a good time. See, a lot of people think you're reserved and like quiet and all of that. Like we're gonna bring
good
this
old
out
country
of you.
boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Kansas
with,
City.
with the big truck. No.
I mean, he's the captain, dude. He's got to portray that.
Could you explain to the people what you were really like in college, especially maybe on this official visit, if you remember it?
I'll only do it if you explain what you were really like in college. I mean, you put on like, oh yeah, I don't drink.
No. But like, I am who I am. I'm pretty open about it. You stay reserved and try to be like, under the radar.
I'm curious what the hell happened with Justin Morrow. He ended up going to Notre Dame, so you did something good.
Oh yeah, I was like 5 for 6 on my recruits who stayed with me committing. Dylan Powers was one. Yeah, so that recruiting trip, I was a freshman and J-Mo was visiting, and his class actually planned like all their official visits for the same weekend, because they wanted to like meet each other and like have a good time all together, whatever. And they came in for our banquet weekend in the spring, and the banquet weekend is like the end of the spring season. It's a pretty big party weekend. We play like a 90-minute game against like an exhibition team. And then the next day we have like our end of the season banquet awards and all that stuff. And then we throw a big party. So we go through kind of the weekend, and what JMO tells me is like for the first like 80% of the weekend, it was kind of boring. And he was like, oh, like Notre Dame kind of gets a bad rep. Like it's a really smart school, and like it's not a party school. And so he was saying how, he wasn't like having a lot of fun or whatever. And then all of a sudden we get done with all the soccer stuff. We get done with the banquet, and I take all the recruits, they were staying at this hotel room, and I take them into the hotel, and I'm like, all right, guys, like it's time to start having some fun. And I bring them into the room, and they walk into the bathroom, and there's a bathtub full of 100 beers in the bathtub. And I was like, all right, let's go to work. Let's get started. And we
I heard you were an animal.
We just we started having fun, and we were playing speed quarters, and maybe shotgunning a few beers.
And then you guys went to sleep.
Yeah.
Notre Dame night.
That was it.
It's what you do after a win at sporting. You just chug a beer from the cauldron. So it's nothing new for you.
Yeah, there it is.
Man, I'm glad. I'm kind of sad / glad. Like that's what JMO remembers me from my time.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
All right, Bees. Last question for me before we hand you off. I don't know if Sal, you got anything else, but well, it was kind of a twofer. So you had a pretty long national team career as well, and a pretty successful one. Played in 2014 World Cup. That whole process. I was kind of wondering mostly about the 2014 World Cup, because I mean I've obviously had my ideas about Jurgen, but you guys had a really successful time during the 2014 World Cup. And how was it being there? How was the group? How were you guys able to advance in that group, and then almost beat Belgium, even though they kind of outplayed you, but you guys almost beat them. So how was that whole experience for you?
Yeah, so I guess to start off like with how it all started. So it started for me. It was 18 months before that is all, which is crazy to think about. That was my first call up was in January of 2013, and I was playing in the World Cup in July of 2014.
Right.
So when I say those words out loud and just think about how small of a window that was, it's pretty crazy. But I got called into that January camp in 2013, and I guess played well enough to start getting some more looks. I remember I got called into the very first trip. It was a World Cup qualifier down in Honduras, and there was 24 guys that got called in, and I was the one guy who did not make the game day roster. So, but Jurgen pulled me aside, and he was like, "Hey, I know this sucks for you, like being the only guy, and you don't really feel part of the team, but I wanted to bring you along this trip because I feel like you're going to play an important role for us going forward and in qualifying." So just hearing that from a coach was really good. A real quick story, about that trip. So this was literally my second ever trip experience with the national team. I had no idea about how things worked, like, the game day rosters and, just everything. I was oblivious and I was trying to like learn on the fly. We were down in Honduras in San Pedro Sula playing this game, World Cup qualifier in the Hex, and I have to go up into the press box to watch the game. I can't watch the game on the bench because I'm not part of that game day, and I'm the only guy. Sometimes there's like 2 or 3 guys who don't make it, but for some reason I was the only guy for that trip. And Tom King, one of like the U.S. soccer coordinators, brings me up there, and he's like, "Hey, this is where you watch the game. It's locked, like it's safe. Don't worry. I'll come up and get you after the game." So the game happens, we lose, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I'm like, yo, this guy forgot me, or somebody forgot me. So I'm sitting up in this press box by myself in Honduras, and I'm like, all right, like, I don't know what to do here. Cell phones like didn't work at the time. I didn't even bring my cell phone. What happens is like our team is like already in the locker room, like off the field. I'm like, I want to be in there, like be with the guys and like hear the coach talk. And so I go through this like window because the door's locked. I can't even get the door open.
You can't get out?
No, I can't get out. I go through this like window. I like climb out, and I climb down like a few stairs or whatever. I end up like going through this other door, and it puts me out like in the main concourse with all the Honduran fans. And I'm going around this like circular thing, like that goes up to the very top or whatever. Yeah. And I'm in my like red U.S. soccer polo, and these fans are just like, "Who the hell are you? Like, who is this guy?" And it's actually a good thing that they won the game, because like they were just making fun of me. If we would have won, like they would have been super pissed, and it would have been worse for me. But anyways, long story short, I basically walked with the Honduran fans like out of the stadium, like together, and then I found my way through the locker room. But
you walked out of the stadium and got back in?
I walked out of the stadium, and then I basically found our bus, and I found one of the security guys, and I got back in.
Wow.
So
I wonder, did you ever ask Tom King if he actually forgot about you, or if he came back?
Oh yeah, he completely forgot.
He forgot.
Yeah, he forgot.
See, I wonder when they would have remembered, like, had you like stayed in that room.
Who knows?
Fleischman.
Yeah,
he's been doing the little bus check.
I blamed it on Fleishy.
You should have.
Sorry, what was the question, Benny? Brazil?
Basically, yeah, I mean, that was probably a better answer than the question, but it was like, how was the experience in 2014?
Things just like progressed from there for me. Like 2013 and 14 was crazy. Like 2013 was the Hex was going on and the Gold Cup, and I was one of the guys that got called into like both of those. So I think in 2013 I played like 13 or 14 games with the U.S. And then in 2014 it was the same. So those 2 years were just like crazy years. Like in 2014, I feel like I wasn't even like a part of sporting because like we came in late to preseason. I missed like the full month of the World Cup pre-camp. I missed the World Cup. I missed like a couple friendlies after that. So it was really hard to just like go back and forth. But the World Cup itself was, I mean, it was cool, man. It was, you've been in a World Cup. So it's, it's one of those just like lifetime achievements that you'll always have as an experience. That last game, I feel like could have gone either way. I'll admit like Belgium outplayed us for sure. But I think going into that game, we, for the first 3 games, we were more reserved, and we gave away a ton of possession, and we were basically just trying to like survive and get through the group. We somehow found a way to do that. And then I remember, sitting in the meeting room and being like, all right, we just sat back against Germany. We ended up losing the game, but we got through like on goal differential. We did what we needed to do. We're not going to be able to do that if we want to advance. In these knockout rounds, we're going to have to open ourselves up a little bit more. Obviously don't be like crazy or stupid. But I feel like that's what we did. And yeah, we gave up more chances than we had in previous games, but we also created a couple more as well. And so on another day, maybe we get lucky. Like Wanda has the chance at the end. We have the free kick at the very, very end and extra time to tie it up and go to penalties. And yeah, I mean, it was a crazy game. That was one of the most exciting games that I've played in. Um, I could just tell that it was an exciting game just with everything happening, the quality that was on the field. I mean, that Belgium roster is insane. If you look at like that was kind of the very beginning of whatever they're calling like the golden era for them, where
Right.
they like made it to number one in the world. But if you go down their roster now, like all those guys were like young players. They were like all in their prime, and it was that roster was just stupid.
Yeah, I just actually rewatched the 2010 game against Algeria that I played in, and it's funny, like comparing 2010 to 2014. We had some similar results. We both lost in the round of 16, except to me it was so different, the styles of play between the 2010 team and the 2014 team. And into 2010 team, we went behind in every single game and came from behind and either tied a game or in the Algeria game we didn't fall behind, but we had to win and we won. And then the Ghana game we come from behind as well, where you guys it wasn't like you were taking the game to a lot of teams, because a lot of games you guys went in the lead. You went in the lead early against Ghana, and you got the lead. You won the game late against Portugal. You guys really outplayed them, and I don't know if did they go up 1-0. I know you guys were up 2-1 at one point.
Yeah, they went up 1-0. They scored.
I think they went up 1-0. But anyways, it's funny. Like we had similar results, but just I think it was a very different type of team. And so it's just, I was wondering kind of like your thought process on that, but it's similar in like the feelings that we shared, I think, during those tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, like we definitely weren't as organized as you probably were going into games. Like you say, our style of plays were different. Like I couldn't even tell you our style of play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we didn't really like.
We've discussed how good of a coach you're
Yeah.
Here many times.
I mean, we know my opinion. I don't need
Yeah.
to.
We didn't have like an identity or a way that we wanted to play. We never really talked about that, which is crazy to think about. I mean, it's just
especially
crazy.
at the international level.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree with you, and but like in some instances, it maybe have like worked in our favor because you just kind of throw a group of guys together who are all good players, and you put them on the field, and you say your job is to win and try and do the best you can. Like in a lot of games, that's kind of how it was, and in some games, you can play a little more free like that when you don't really have a structured system. So I think some guys thrived in that system, and that's kind of how we were able to get some of the results that we did.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I think that works, and more so at a club level, because you get to know the players around you. If you, for some reason, don't have like that, real directive as to like, you do this, this is your responsibility. This is how we're going to defend. This is how we're going to attack. You can kind of figure your way with repetition, right? With the guys around you. But it's crazy to think, like, for you guys to have been as successful as you were in a really hard group, right? Like it is what it is, but it was surprising. All right. Last question for me, because I said it was a twofer, and we just had Bruce actually on the podcast last week. And I asked him about this in 2017. We were both there. And my question to you is, so I asked him, looking back now, what would be one thing that you would change about the Trinidad game? And he kind of went into more depth and said, he would make a bigger change in the Costa Rica game that they lost at home in New York, or at Red Bull Stadium, and he said a few things about the 2017 or the Trinidad game. But my question to you is: you played in both that Panama game that we won 4-0 and the game against Trinidad. You started both games. I believe you played the full 90 for both games. Looking back on it now, do you think you and maybe a group of guys were too tired and it would have been better to switch guys around? Or do you think it was just, we didn't play, the right way, or whatever? What would be a change that you would make, I guess, looking back on it, in hindsight?
I guess the easiest most blunt answer is I would make changes in the lineup.
Yeah.
If I
Which
had
is-
another chance at it.
But did you sense that before the game? I guess.
No, absolutely
Okay.
not. Like, that's why it's such a hard decision. I mean, the Panama game was a must-win game. Absolutely,
Yeah.
both of those games were huge, and I know that we only needed a tie in Trinidad, but the only reason we needed a tie is because we won the Panama game. So
Right.
we knew going into the Panama game we had to win that game. So that game had just as much pressure on it as the Trinidad game. We played really well. Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for a better result in that game. And so I think after that game, like, if you're a coach, you know, I remember Bruce like went around to every guy, and he basically, like, it was almost like an interrogation. It wasn't just like, hey, yeah, you doing all right? Like, you feeling good? But he like actually sat you down, and you could tell that like this was a more serious conversation. He's like, hey, we just went through a very tough week of training, getting ready for the Panama game. We put a lot into it. Like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling physically, emotionally, mentally? Like, do you have enough in your system? And, I can only speak for myself with how my conversation went. But yeah, I mean, I told him I was good. And I was good. I felt like I was good. And I mean, I didn't have like any issues from that game. But I'd be
Yeah, he
curious to
mentioned
see.
that, and he said that everybody said that they wanted to play,
Okay.
and that's why he kept the same.
Because
lineup,
all us athletes will always say that, right?
And
Sometimes
that's what I was
that's
going to
the
say
thing,
is
right?
like,
We are worst enemies,
guarantee nobody said, no, I don't want to play. Like, you get a game to qualify your country into the World Cup. Like, you want to be a part of that. So I assume every guy said yes. And I assume he was still like trying to figure out the lineup and if he wanted to make changes. In the game itself, it felt, I don't know. It even up until like the final whistle, like, I still felt like we had a chance. The first half was basically a disaster with the own goal, and then whatever, the guy hits like a 35-yard shot out of nowhere. I mean, those things suck. You can't really control those. But we go into halftime, and then we get the early goal in the second half, and I think we're all looking around like, all right, like, we're back. We have 40 minutes essentially to get one goal, and we're in the World Cup. And so, yeah, I would have bet the house on that we were able to get a goal. And the more time that went on, it just, yeah, the legs started getting heavier for sure. I don't know. I mean, you guys have all been in those games. It's like that was the hardest part of, like, you were on the field and you wanted to push and push and push, but the conditions were extremely difficult. The field was heavy. And it just, like, your body, there was limitations to your body.
I think from the outside looking in, I mean, I was there and I came in for whatever 5-10 minutes, but from the outside looking in, I think our biggest, and maybe as a collective team, right? Obviously Bruce is the coach, but like you said, players are talked to, and you, as much as you want to play, like you have also the responsibility to, be honest, and say what's going to help the team. But having said all that, I think our biggest problem as a team was, I think we underestimated how difficult a game could turn out to be. And that's something that you can never do, especially away from home in those CONCACAF games, right? Because the field sucks. It's heavy. The grass is tall. It's all muddy and wet. You go down 2-0. Now you got to come back from 2-0. And so, like, if you put all those things together, I think, like I said, hindsight's easy maybe, but I think a few changes, and I agree with you, would have made a big difference in imagine, like, it's not the same 11. Maybe you're playing, maybe somebody else is playing, but somebody else is running more than the guy that played the 90 minutes before. That helps your legs as well. And so I think it was just a collective thing. By keeping the same 11, it was something that we underestimated the difficulty physically that game would impose on us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think looking back now, that's probably the right move, is to make a couple changes just from the fact of freshness, get some fresh legs and fresh faces in there. And but I mean, I would have done the same thing as Bruce did. And because if you make those changes and then all of a sudden your team is like out of whack and there's no chemistry, then you get absolutely crushed as well. Because
I mean, you live and die by the decisions you
That's
make.
what I'm
right?
saying.
Like,
That's what I'm saying.
you still try and make the right
you make the
decision,
other
but you live and die
decision,
by it.
and yeah.
because in the
All right,
Panama
dude.
game there was we had really good chemistry, and everyone was flowing, and that's like one of the hardest things to get on the national team. So you find like a group or a game that works really well, and yeah, naturally you just want to keep it with that.
Yep. All right. We've talked enough about the silly things, right, Ike? This is the nitty gritty now. So, Bees, strap your seatbelt. Your seat will start getting warmer, and I now pass you on to Mr. Ike Opara. He's all yours.
All right, Bees, welcome. I didn't forget that one of your texts. But so remember on the podcast, I kept saying people keep saying I'm going soft. Bees was one of those people who said I was going soft. So, yeah, I know that's unfortunate. So, question number 1: rank these current center backs on your teams in terms of talent, from first to worst, from Puncic, Graham Smith, Botan, and Winston Reed.
Is Winston Reed even on the team yet? I think he actually is flying back.
Okay, we'll replace him with Fontes. Wait, how did Fontes not make my list?
Yeah, how did my boy Fontes? Dude, I saw him for like 3 months straight when we were both doing rehab last year.
Yeah, great dude, bro. I hung out with him in the offseason. Love
Awesome,
the guy. Bees, I'm trying to make you plead early just because.
Fontes needs to trade in some of that personality for a little speed, though.
Well, can I ask, like, is this in their prime or just like from what I've seen? Because I've only seen Winston.
Okay,
for 2
Winston's
weeks.
out.
I've only seen
Yeah.
Winston for 2 weeks, and he was like rehabbing still.
Okay, so he doesn't count. So I guess it would be the 4 other guys that you've seen.
Bees, the beauty of these questions is you can answer how you choose in terms of like, I
Well,
gives
this is
you that
talent.
liberty.
No. But I specifically said talent this time, not like personality or anything like that.
Man, I mean, center backs are tough. Like,
I know. That's why I'm putting you. That's why I'm trying to get you first. I want to give you a nice little backhanded slap to start off with.
I mean, these are my teammates, man.
I am very aware of this.
Can I?
Very aware of this.
God.
Well, I think it's actually kind of easy, to be honest. What was the 4th one? Oh, Fontes. I think it's easy. And I have never even played with him. How do you pronounce his name, Bees?
Benny,
Boomcheck?
shut up. You're not in the interrogation room. Get out of the room.
Am I going to be the first person to plead on the first question?
No, but I'm doing it specifically because of you called me soft. I was getting softer.
Just answer it, Bees. Just show him up.
Let's see.
You've heard enough of these, Bees.
Yeah,
you plead, I get easier. You don't plead, it gets somehow harder than that question.
Man. All right, I'll plead. I'm soft.
Don't
Sorry.
ever call me soft again.
At least we don't have to answer any questions today.
Yeah, that's ultimately what I was saving myself from.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, so a lot of the fan questions were great. I only used that one because it was a personal vendetta. I wanted to go more so with the fan questions just because I think a lot of people, find you interesting. But this one actually comes from our old communication manager, Cappy.
Ooh,
last
Jonathan
second,
Kaplan.
I saw it last second. Would you trade winning the 2013 MLS Cup to have qualified for the 2018 World Cup?
Oh gosh, would I have traded it?
And you would have started in the 2018 World Cup as well, so it wouldn't have just been.
Would I have started there?
No.
Man, that's.
Although I would like to kind of hear your answer too, Benny.
Oh, my answer is easy. But my answers are always.
You're back out of the room. You're back out of the room.
I'm letting
Benny,
Bees
no
answer.
more. No
Lock
more.
the door, Ike.
Wait, so
Lock the door.
you said I would have to qualify. I would have been guaranteed a spot on that World Cup. Because
Correct.
Bruce already came out and said he was going to change the entire team, right? He's going to bring in.
Yeah, but let's
Are you
just say
quoting
would've
BSI the podcast?
No, I just knew that.
Let's just say that you were one of the guys that we're going to stay on. I'll add that hypothetical as well. I know.
This is tough. Man.
You can hit up Cappy after this.
Yeah,
you have his number.
Thanks, Cappy. I mean, I feel like if I say no to the World Cup, like, it's just, I'm like disrespecting my country, like, but I don't know. I know I wouldn't change it.
No
I've
chance,
lived
dude.
I've lived through both.
Never.
The MLS Cup, changed my life. It changed our city, changed our organization. So, yeah, I mean, you if I would have switched it, you would have to said like what ifs, So
Right.
like what if? Like I've
Right.
already lived through it and yeah, experienced it. So no, I would not change it.
I agree, Bees, and it would be an emphatic no for me.
Unless I would have said a World Cup final.
Oh, well, if you're going to go win the World Cup, then that's a different story.
To just the opportunity to play in the World Cup final. You might win it. You might lose it.
What about make
Would
the
that
semis?
change it?
What about make the semis, Benny?
Now it's a tougher question.
Yeah. What about the opportunity?
But just
to play
make the
in
World
final?
Cup, no chance. Because
What about
making the
play in
World
the
Cup is something that
but
U.S. should do, correct?
Wait. Hold on. But what I'm saying is, what about not everyone gets to make the team. Like
no, I understand. But Bees has played in one as well. So if you hadn't played in one, then it would maybe make it a more difficult question.
So for the guys that have played in it, would you rather, if you were to make it to the final for a chance to win it, you might win it or you might lose it? Do you still take the MLS Cup?
So I think at that point you gotta go to the World Cup.
Trade MLS Cup for 2013 to make it to the World Cup and be guaranteed to get to the semis.
Well, to get to the final, you might win it, you might lose it. Do you take the
guaranteed
chance?
to get to the finals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Okay.
I trade it.
All right.
Because even taking second in the World Cup final, if I'm on the team or playing or whatever, like that's very special.
Okay. You're back out of the room. Okay, goodbye. Question number 3, Bees. This is going to be really easy. Best barbecue spot in Kansas City for you?
Overall?
I think it's really easy.
No.
This is a tough criteria.
Yeah, it is.
To be fair.
Overall, it for me is Jack Stack, actually. Jack Stack Barbecue.
Really?
Yeah.
Not Q39?
I lived across from there, and I thought it was bang average.
Oh,
but
stop,
that's
Sal.
just me.
The sides are phenomenal.
Wait,
there,
did
bro.
you go to the one down in Crossroads or the Plaza?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Crossroads.
one like in the freight district or whatever?
Yeah.
So I think Jack Stack for me overall is the best because you can go there for like a sit-down dinner and you can get anything. Like you can get ribs, you can get pulled pork, sandwich. Their sides are the best. Their cheesy corn and their baked beans are just like unbelievable for me. It just kind of depends on what...
new sponsor for BSI the podcast. Yeah. I'll reach out to them.
After I just called them bang average.
No, I would say Jack Stack. Joe's for me, like if you're going for a lunch, just like a quick lunch and you want to get a sandwich and fries, Oklahoma Joe's, which is now Joe's Kansas City, is up there. Q39 is a new spot that I would recommend for like a date.
That opened up when I just went there.
Yeah, that was a hot spot. It still is. Like that's got a really good vibe. So if you're trying to like go out with friends or like take a date to barbecue, I would recommend Q39. And then there's like a couple hole in the wall spots that are just like still classics. Those to me sometimes are the best. Like you walk in, you're like, no way, this is not going to be good, and blown away.
Yeah, LC's.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. LC's.
Yeah. All right, we could debate that one, but you all named good choices. You didn't say any wrong ones. Put it like that.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. I was really mean to you off the bat, and so I don't really be as mean to you now. Okay, we'll go with an easier one though. If you could play for any other MLS club, who are you choosing and why?
So I'm gonna go Atlanta. I was thinking about Seattle a little bit. It'd be cool to just play like in a bigger market, a bigger stadium. But yeah, Atlanta just seems to me like they've almost hit everything perfectly from when they started. Not just like personnel, but their practice facility, the way that they're engaged like with their community, just everything, the way that they travel. Like, yeah, it's just seems like a really good organization. Sal, you could probably chime in, but yeah, I would love to play for them.
I mean, it's it's top notch, and we actually hear that answer a lot. I feel like, I mean, as far as it ticks every box when you're looking for a franchise. So, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, question number 5.
Last question.
From a couple of these have been fan questions. Oh, this one's tough. I'm gonna change it around a little bit. I don't think it's gonna be any easier, but if you had to drop one of the regular starters off of your team and trade them for someone else in the league, who would it be and why?
For someone else?
Yeah. And so who would you want to receive back? I know who I would pick actually. Just because.
Yeah, I mean, like the obvious answer right now is Carlos Vela.
Right.
But
get rid of Johnny, dude.
No, dude. You're sending Daniel out of here.
Daniel's good. Was Daniel starting? Daniel wasn't starting, was he?
No, but he's kind of a regular. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have chimed in on yours. But I know Daniel is.
Daniel isn't a regular right now.
Yeah, I know, but I used to love messing with Daniel. I used to love it.
Yeah,
that's why
we know,
Daniel.
dude. You made him call you daddy.
Anyways, go on, Bees. So Vela.
Yeah, like I don't know, Benny. Do you think Vela would fit our team, like fit our system? Because the defensive, I know he 100%. Would. But you kind of have to like mold. You have to bend a little bit in terms of your tactics for him. And Peters, he's never really done that, so he would have to do that for him.
I think Peter would be very happy to have him on his team.
I agree. It would be interesting.
He'd probably play a similar role to Johnny Russell, right?
I mean, I think Carlos can play a couple different roles than just on the right, but I think that's his best spot.
Yeah.
Or Peter with Johan him. Go one of which 2 ways.
Play him left back.
Okay, so who's going?
All right, I'll kick off DS20, Daniel.
I mean, the guy gave himself this initial. I mean, come on, Daniel. You're
Poor guy's the only one that probably listens to this podcast too.
He does, I think. I think he does.
Yeah.
At least
Daniel,
he retweets our tweets.
Yeah, Daniel, we love you, but you got to change for the better. You got to change.
He'll be good. Did you guys know that Daniel was going to be be a bachelor?
I'd
in
heard.
Kansas City.
Another reason why, Daniel, you got to change, man. You got to change.
No, we all bought tickets, like ourselves. We found like a section and all the players bought tickets, and it was, I don't know if it was going to be good. Like Johnny Russell in the stands at a live event for ABC The Bachelor. Like I just do not trust that guy. So it ended up getting canceled for COVID, and I'm very thankful for Daniel's sake.
I would have watched. That would have been amazing.
Yeah. It would have been on ABC, like on TV.
Maybe local or
they were doing like these like satellite like traveling bachelors. So maybe it wasn't on like the actual ABC. It was maybe like abc.com or something, or you could like stream it. But they like travel to cities, and it's like a one night thing where like 20 eligible contestants come on, and Daniel has to pick one of them.
The one lucky girl. All right, Beast. Well, you've successfully answered 4 out of 5, but you're finally off the hot seat. I hope you didn't sweat too much, but you've been a great guest, and we appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Good luck in the MLS is Back tournament. I'm sure Peter's got you guys training for the last 5 months preparing for that, so you guys should be the fittest team out there. But yeah, I'm excited to at least watch a little bit of soccer and get to see you guys in action.
Sounds good. Ike, I'll bring us some Chick-fil-A before the game when we play each other.
No, only I can
Benny
do that,
Krieger.
all right? Nobody else can drink milkshakes before a game.
Shocking.
Thanks, Beast.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep. See you, Sal.
Thanks, Matt Besler, for coming on the show. A good friend of ours, an ex-teammate of all of ours. So a lot of good stories from his 100 years playing at Sporting Kansas City with Peter Vermees. Also some of his time on the national team. And you kind of got him there with the first question, Ike. I mean, you didn't give him much of a chance.
Yeah, he hurt my pride. about a month ago when he said that I was letting I was letting folks down.
He's an avid listener of the pod, dude.
Yeah, he's a supporter, unlike his teammate Tim Melia, who refuses to give one of these a listen because he's petty. So
I think Ike said it best that he wanted to just get that plead the fifth out of the way early so that we didn't have to sweat that he was going to.
I had to establish myself.
Yeah.
That's good. That's all we got for you guys today. To our Patreons, we appreciate it. If you guys want to, get the full episode and without ads, I know we've had some ads recently because we're really making, we're raking it in now, guys. We're really raking it in. So if you guys out there are listening to the podcast and you want it both in the same parts, a day early with no ads, make sure to join our Patreon. We've got extra content as well on there for. I don't know how many of these guys, everybody's still listening on in the outro. We probably should have put this on the intro, but for those that are still listening, they might actually, want to be part of the Patreons. And
we got a bonus episode on there.
And I was going to mention for the Patreons, there's quite a few guys that are registered for that bonus pod. And make sure you get your questions in early because I know there's some questions that have come in late and we haven't gotten them on the pod. So make sure you get them early. You guys are paying big bucks to get the extra pod, so get your questions in.
You're paying for Benny's health insurance.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't even have health insurance right now, so don't get sick, Sophia, Luca, or Julia, and we will be fine. All right, I think we've taken enough time of these people's days, so we should let them go. But thanks again for stopping by. Thanks, Bees. A lot of fun things to talk about, and we will see you guys next time.
Be on the lookout for another project. I'm coming out of the gates. See you guys.
There we go. See you guys.